Angelo here of Lambros Realty, back again with the Cherrybrook property market update, this time for July 2022. So a bit to get through. I will touch on the development around the Cherrybrook station precinct towards the end of the video, so just hang tight for that. But I'll begin as per usual with the monthly figures. So for the month of July 2022, there were 12 registered home sales. There was a median price amongst those home sales of 1,910,000. The highest sale hitting 2.8 million, and the average days on market in Cherrybrook have now hit 71. Now, if we compare this to last year in July 2021, there were 13 registered home sales, so quite similar there. Median price at 2,025,000. The highest sale price recorded for that period was 2,306,000, and average days on market were sitting at 24. So just to summarize, the sales volumes have doubled in comparison to the previous month of June 2022, with the registered home sales consistent to what it was back in July 2021. The median price for home sales is down 6% from this time last year, and down 14.55% in comparison to June 2022. It is worth mentioning, though, that there were low sales volumes in the previous month, so that data is naturally going to be distorted. So, and month by month, you sort of take things grain of salt, but you just look at the patterns to see how things are trending, just to emphasize that there. Pardon me. As I said, so average days on market sitting at 71. And this is up 21 days from where it was sitting last month at 50 days on market. Auction results for July 2022, there were only 2 registered auctions for that month. And of those auctions, both had passed in. So as you can see, which is an obvious clearance rate of 0%, as you can see, auctions are not performing well, and certainly not the climate for it, and they haven't been performing well up until, auction clearance rates have been below 20% as of April 2022, right? So just to give you an indication that it consistently over the past few months consistently been a very poor performer. As far as stock and homes for sale at the moment, so when I'm talking homes for sale, I'm talking 4 bedrooms plus. When I recorded the data, so it was Thursday the 4th of August, where I had a look, there were 23 homes publicly listed for sale on realestate.com. That's five more than what there was the previous month, and that's got to do with obviously the increase in sales, and there's been a few properties that have withdrawn as well. As far as the rental market's concerned, just to touch on that certainly hasn't slowed down. On average, 4+ bedroom homes that have presented reasonably well are comfortably leasing for $1,000 per week plus, and leasing within a matter of 14 days. So doesn't seem to be any slowing down there as far as the rental market's concerned. As far as the data, so what's the data telling us? I mean, as far as evidently the property market is cool. Unless you've been living under a rock, it's quite obvious and has been for some time now. And I guess, what this is showing, the low stock levels we're seeing here in Cherrybrook is due to the low mortgage stress to the majority of households in and around the suburb. And obviously, due to the turbulent market conditions, they're exercising on the side of caution, right? So those that were thinking of selling are holding off because the market just isn't performing. And then I guess from a purchaser's perspective, just go back to the sellers, they're not feeling the pinch of the interest rates. From a purchaser's perspective, they are feeling the pinch of the interest rates. So, a lot of buyers out there are having difficulty obtaining finance. On average, this is just a general observation, not concrete data here, but just people I've been talking to. on average, they're sort of, their borrowing capacity is decreased 20%, give or take, due to the bank's lending criteria. They're really tightened lending at the moment. So for those 4 to 6 months ago that had borrowing capacity of up to 2.5 million, right, that's now dropped to 2 million, right? Just to give you an example. So, what I'm hearing in the marketplace at the moment is, consumers aren't being realistic. So both sides, sellers saying, well, how can buyers expect to buy a 2.3, $2.4 million home for 1.8, 1.9? They must be dreaming. Well, it's a case of people's borrowing capacity has been restricted as a result. Then the buyers are saying, well, pardon me, buyers are saying, well, sellers aren't being realistic with their price expectations. Well, they are, because that's their positioning, right? They're not financially pressed or feeling the squeeze of the mortgage stress or increase in interest rates, because they're not on that side of the equation. So, this is, if it was a market where there was high mortgage stress and people needed to sell, you would find sellers being realistic, because there are sellers out there that are selling for what the market is indeed indicating. So, something to be wary of. And naturally, yes, while it's in a correcting cycle now, it will bounce back. And, quite a few of you that I've been speaking to from a buying perspective are frustrated that you can't borrow more, because that's what's going to happen in due time. So you feel like you're going to miss out on the opportunity and not reap the rewards down the track, which is unfortunate, but it's just the way things are, right? So that's just touching, pardon me, that's just touching on the Cherrybrook side. So now onto the broader Cherrybrook side, as far as the development is concerned, which seems to be, this has all sort of sprung on Cherrybrook residents over the past couple of weeks. Now, I did have a Zoom meeting earlier this week with four of the representatives with Landcom, and which I'd like to thank them deeply for their time. It was, I was on the Zoom for about 40 minutes and got a lot out of it, and a better understanding of the metro station, what's happening in and around. And I'm not going to, bore you with that here. I'm going to talk about the broader Cherrybrook precinct and the plans there on that. But as far as that's concerned, my discussion with Landcom, I do have a link which I've put in the description section of this YouTube video, where you can have a read and see the questions I posed and answers that were given. And, I guess to cut a long story short, I did have my doubts on that proposal to begin with, but to Landcom's credit, they've really taken everything into consideration. And, given the nature of development's inevitable, it's always going to happen around a train station. We know that. I think they've done a very good job planning for what can be done, right? So they've looked at building heights have been restricted. Just to give you a quick summary, building heights have been restricted to 5 stories, absolute maximum. There will be underground parking for non-residential and residential use. The skate park has been obliterated, so that's not happening. Definitely took that feedback on board. There won't be any additions to the commuter car park, but that'll be combated with the commercial space. And obviously having, as I said, underground car parking facilities. So they've definitely given a lot of thought, and obviously that's just a few of the things. Again, read the article I put together as a result of my Zoom meeting, and I'll cover everything there. But what I want to touch on at the moment is the plans for the broader Cherrybrook precinct, which seems to have sprung up on a lot of us here without much notice. So to cut a long story short, the plan is over the course of the next 20 years. So up until this plan is the 2041 vision, the year 2041, to create an extra 3,200 dwellings. Now, again, in that link where I've written the article on my conversation with Landcom, I've got all the links to the site plans, the precinct maps, and all that. So what I'm referring to here is the Cherrybrook precinct map, which you can, again, will be in the YouTube description by clicking on that Landcom Zoom meeting I had. And you'll have a look at that and you'll see the broader area in which development is proposed for Cherrybrook. Now, there was a webinar that took place last night. So the New South Wales, just to shed some light on this, there's a couple of different elements here. So Landcom is responsible for developing the 3.5 hectares of government land in and around the station. And when I say developing, not them personally, but putting the plan together and obviously, putting it to tender for the appropriate developer to come and buy. Obviously, at their discretion, they'll select the best tender, which I'm comfortable with because it's their reputation. So naturally, they're not going to, give it to somebody that their credibility is questionable or haven't quite had the experience. I think the bit that worries me, and I dare say may worry many others out there as well, is this bigger proposal of the 3,200 homes, which extends obviously the other side of Castle Hill Road, which is managed by the Hillshire Council. And then obviously when we push back towards Robert Road, Dalkeith Road, that section of Cherrybrook, which is managed by the Hornsby Local Council. So the plan is obviously to increase roads, more park space, more trees, and sounds good in theory, but I can tell you now in practice, it sounds like it's going to be a nightmare. I'm happy to be proven wrong, and I could very well eat my words in the future, but the thing I question is the demand for 3 to 5 story living extending out from the metro station. 20 years, whilst it's a long time, it's not really. By that I mean, in 20 years, I really can't see much changing in the shape of the demographic and the people that choose to reside in Cherrybrook. Again, I really question the schools. What's going to happen with the capacity of the schools? Nothing has really been stated in the shape of new schooling, positioning for schools. Our local schools are already bursting at the seams. As far as travel and commuting is concerned, yes, it's all fine and dandy to encourage people to stay off the roads, but people need a car and are going to drive. So, a lot of the residents that are living there now, I dare say, and I can't speak for all of them, but I dare say the majority would be opposed to this, whilst others would be okay, provided they got a good payout for this figure. So a good payout from the developer. So this is very up in the air at the moment. It's not very clear as to what's coming. It's, over the course of time, I'm sure there'll be more community events where people can share their feedback and share their concerns. And, hopefully the New South Wales Department of Planning, who are responsible for the broader Cherrybrook precinct outside of where the 3.5 hectares of government land is, will take people's feedback on board, as Landcom have gratefully done, which ideally, listening to people's concerns and people that live there and know the area best, can really expand on that and provide some feedback, which hopefully people will take on board, the New South Wales Department of Planning. So again, this is very up in the air, nothing concrete at the moment. The Landcom project is very concrete. That's all guns blazing, and should be, I think that'll get the go ahead probably by the end of this year, and probably look to be sold at some point next year, I'd say. So that development is just around the corner. As far as a 20-year plan, again, that's still up in the air. But I guess what and I'll cover this in future monthly updates. And obviously, anybody watching this, feel free to call me, because things can happen throughout the course of the month. If there's any updates or any announcements, obviously I don't do these videos they're done every month. So if something happens tomorrow, I'm not going to cover it until the following month. So if you have any questions, feel free to call me if you'd like to discuss anything beforehand. But I guess the one word of warning and caution I would put to you out there in that zone is, if you are getting approached by agents or developers at the moment, trying to bundle you up and get you involved in a group to try to sell to developers, I'm not saying don't do it. What I am saying is just be mindful. you know, because obviously a developer that will put an option on the site, generally speaking, could be anywhere up until 5 years. And what seems like a good price now, in 5 years' time, could very well be market value, or below. So you don't want to put yourself in a, because I guess the question I have as well is, if you're only allowed to go up to 5 stories, depending on the parcel and who groups together, what sort of money will be thrown to the residents that live there, right? Keeping in mind that on average, Cherrybrook over the course of the past 20 years has appreciated in value over, you know, on average 12% per annum. So keeping that, you know, keeping that in mind, how good, you know, a payout figure of 3.5 million for your property may seem like a good thing now, but in 5 years' time, that 3.5 million could very well be, you know, thereabouts anyway, right? So you've only, the intent of selling was a good price, thinking that you're not going to get that amount later on, but you're going to get it anyway. So just be very wary of all that at the moment. Ask questions, speak to people that are familiar with this process, solicitors, friends of the developers. You're welcome to call me if you want to discuss any of this. Happy to help where I can, but just be very wary and exercise due diligence is what I'm saying. I'm not saying there aren't good offers or things to be had, but, you know, ideally try keep options as short as possible. You know, if you are collaborating as a group, and you want to make sure that it is lucrative as well. But again, that's just, again, I'm not going to, this is a whole subject in itself on what to look for, what to do. And, you know, I'd be here for at least an hour giving the ins and outs. So I'm happy to discuss that with you. I don't expect anybody to sit here for an hour watching me discuss that. But that's pretty much how it sits at the moment. So just to sum things up, I will put a link in the bio, in the YouTube property description, right, of this video, where I will have a link to my interview with Landcom, just summarizing what we spoke about and giving you the ins and outs. I think most of you will find helpful. The Cherrybrook, there's obviously a plan for the broader Cherrybrook precinct, which is being facilitated by the New South Wales Department of Planning. That is a 20-year plan to obviously extend and have 3,200 new homes, which is completely going to ruin, you know, well, sorry, let me rephrase it, not real change that shape of Cherry. The people's views on this will be different. Some will like it, others won't. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So again, thank you for watching. Angelo of Lambros Realty. Details are up there. If you want to contact me, discuss this further, happy to help. And until next month, speak to you then.